Paying respects to the dead. In almost all parts of the world, if someone is dead, people who knew the person come and pay their respects for who he or she was. But in India, a dead person is generally treated as a divine being and one bows down to them. It does not matter who they were when they were alive. When they were alive, maybe they did not deserve any kind of respect. But now that they are dead, people bow down to them. This is not out of joy that the person is gone. They bow down to him or her because he or she is no more that person. Now, what is left is what is hovering around, is of a sort different nature. This is life. This is the basis of life. And with that, you don't argue. You don't question its wisdom. You just bow down because it is way beyond you. The belongings of the dead person. When a person is dead, the articles of clothing that have been intimately in touch with their body, such as the underclothes, must be burned immediately. Other clothes, jewelry, and other articles are distributed not just to one person but among many people within 3 days. Everything is distributed as quickly as possible so that the being gets confused. It will not know where to hang around anymore. If you were to give a bundle of their belongings to one person, the being would go there because the energy of their own body still exists in the clothes and they are attracted to it. This is done not only to settle the dead but also to settle the family and relatives so that they too understand that it is over. It does not matter how involved or attached you were to someone when it is done, the game is up. To burn or bury. You will see if someone very dear to you is dead and their body is there, you will keep on hallucinating. Maybe they are just sleeping, maybe they will sit up, maybe some miracle will happen, maybe something else will happen. You know this will go on unnecessarily. You will see people crying and a big emotional drama happening. But the moment the body is cremated, you will see everyone becomes silent, always, because now everyone knows the game is up. The cremation of bodies has also come from a certain understanding of life. The idea of burning is that no trace of you should remain. Once you are gone, you are clean gone. Nothing of you should remain. But if someone exits their body consciously, or even if not consciously, they at least left gently or shipped out of the system, then you can bury them. But if they were jolted out of the system, you must burn the body. Traditionally, in India, you will see agricultural families bury their dead because most of them would have died of old age. They would have shipped out. Kshatriya families, which were the fighting class, always burned their dead because most of them were jolted out of their body, either in a war or while fighting somewhere. Even otherwise, these were people who lived flamboyant lifestyles of drinking and doing this and that. So, most of the time, they broke the body in some way. Such bodies must be burned immediately. But now there is no one to identify all these things, and moreover, if you put them in a coffin and bury them, they will not even become part of the earth for a long time. So, I would say if someone dies when they are still young and vibrantly alive, it is better to cremate them. Only if someone dies of old age, you can bury them. If you understand life very well, absolutely well, you can exit the body in such a way that you exit completely. You gather everything and leave. If you leave like that, then also you can be buried. You have completely exited, so there is no hurry. We can even keep you for a day or two and then bury you. Usually, people build samadhis for such people so that the energies that they have left behind can be made use of by other people. Even if we bury someone we should put a layer of salt and turmeric beneath and above the body. Don't think we are making a stew out of them. The idea is that we want the body to deteriorate as quickly as possible. If you put it in the ground without these things, the body remains intact for a long time, and unnecessarily certain processes happen which are not good. Also in India, another fear was that there were people doing various kind of occult sadhanas who were always looking for a freshly dead body. If you bury the body and go, as soon as you go, they will come and dig it up. In recent times, you don't hear much of such things, but it used to happen often in the past. If you put salt, that body becomes useless for them. If they know you put salt, they will not dig up the grave. There are also certain cultures which practice feeding the carrion to scavenger birds. As we know, among sailors, this is a practice of burial at sea. These practices have come out of convenience. Certain religions originated where there was hardly any wood for burning. Hence, burial has become big. There was no question of burning because fuel was extremely precious in desert lands. Moreover, burial was easy in the sand. A pit could be dug with bare hands and covered up. Perhaps the custom to bury the dead in a box came into existence as wild animals smelled them and dug out the bodies. Slowly, the boxes became more and more elaborate. With the passage of time, today most coffins are more and more ornamental, made of hardwood, steel, and even concrete. If you bury a body in these types of coffin, they will just rot inside. They will not become a part of the earth for a very long time. This is not good. Another reason for avoiding burial is the question of what you leave behind. You should experiment with this and see. Enter a burial ground and see how it feels. Then enter a cremation ground and see how it feels. Let us say 5 cremations have happened today. The cremation ground will be very active, alive with energy. This is a lot of life. But if you don't have a balanced mind, it can be a very fearful kind of energy. Fearful not because of anything else, but because in some way it reminds you of your mortality. It is almost like there has been a sacrifice here, that kind of energy. Yogis and tantrics wanted to hang around such places because they had learned to use that energy in a positive way. So, what cremation leaves behind is something that is quite alive. But this is not the case with burial. If you go to a burial ground, you will see there is a rotting kind of energy. Rotting may not be the right word because it is not because the body is rotting. It is a slow release of that same energy. Besides, because the energy hangs around for too long, it has intermingled in so many ways with too many lives, and the net result is a very stale kind of energy. Burial grounds do not cause fear in you, but very easily a certain sadness or depressive mood can set in a person just by visiting there, even if no one dear to them was buried there. This is like the feeling you get in a general ward in a government hospital. It is neither life nor death. This is not a good thing to leave behind for future generations. Bringing home the body. People have this strong sentiment that wherever the person died, his or her body should be brought home for burial or cremation. At one time, this would have had some relevance because many traditional people in this country would not eat anything which was grown in a place that was beyond a day's walking distance from their homes. Nothing from outside that area was consumed. Whenever they traveled, they also carried their food with them. They did not want to eat food from anywhere and everywhere. So they developed a strong resonance and a very existential relationship with the land on which they were living. If you lived like that, dying in that place and being buried in that place could be very important. Today, we eat things which come from around the world or at least around the country, and moreover, we are loitering all over the planet. So, where you are buried does not matter so much anymore. It is more an emotional thing. And if you are already in a foreign country, we don't know how much of that country you carry. So, existentially, it does not matter as to where you dispose of the body, but emotionally, it does matter for people. Moreover, there is this element of practicality too. All the family and friends who would have wanted to participate in the funeral are more likely to be around your own home. So it makes more sense to bring the body back because many of them may not be able to travel to the place where this person died. Cleansing the house. Whenever a death occurs in a place or a dwelling, generally there are some cleansing processes that are to be done. This is not just for some hygiene reasons. You want to wipe off that energy completely from that place. If you want to cleanse the homes or dwellings, you can do Punya Puja or something similar, which will work very well. You can also cleanse it by taking a vibrant fire like camphor fire all over the house, just like we do Klesanasana for the individual body. Similarly, you can do Klesanasana for the entire house. Doing some chants in that space also could be very beneficial. This need for cleansing is not just for the places where death happens. Traditionally, even if you attended a funeral, you had to bath, cleanse yourself properly, and change your clothes before you even entered the house or touched anything there. In some cultures, the clothes you wore to the funeral were to be never used again. It was burned because it gathers a certain aura of death, and you don't want to carry that and walk around. Tonsuring the head after cremation. A common after death Hindu ritual is tonsuring of the head of the male relatives of the deceased. This shaving of the head came into practice when people generally kept a lot of hair on their head. Today they are anyway cutting it every month or so. So whether you shave or not may not make much difference. But normally people used to have long hair, and hair is one thing that can easily gather a certain amount of aura. You know that hair gathers static. People who have a lot of hair have static. It will be crackling sometimes in certain weather. Hair has this capability. Similarly, if you have been in the house where death has occurred or you are related to that person, you gather an aura of death, particularly in your hair. It hangs around you. So if you have a lot of hair, you shave it so that the aura is gone. This is the reason why they tonsure the heads of newborn babies also. When you were in your mother's womb, you gathered that aura. After birth, the aura of that is still there. If it stays with you, you will not grow well. So, they wait for 4 to 5 months so that the baby is reasonably grown and stable in health, and then they shave the head. The shaving the child's head also aids in the development of the brain by moving energies towards the head region. Spreading the ashes. After the death has happened, it can take up to 40 days for the being to completely leave the body. Even if you have burned the physical body, they will look for certain elements of the body like the ash, or maybe their used clothes or something that belonged to them. It could be the sweat or smell of the body, because still the realization has not come that it is over. This is not desirable, so we want to eliminate it. One of the things that is done for this is to scatter the ashes as widely as possible. After cremation, if you keep the ash in one place, there is a tendency for the being to look for that. So they are put in a river where they get really spread out. That way, they cannot be found. The effort is to do everything possible to make the being understand that it is over. This is also for the living to understand that it is all over. Otherwise, you will keep the ash in a pot in your house and you will become unnecessarily emotional about it. Another reason why you disperse the ash is that you want to prevent its misuse. Usually, occult practitioners always gather ash from the cremation ground when they want to do those types of rituals, where they want to attract a disembodied being towards them. They will be waiting, they will be sitting in the cremation ground as if they are out there to help you. Generally, if they want to do certain type of ritual, they will steal the body itself. It is usually the Agharis who do this. They are always looking for a young, vibrant dead body so they can sit on the dead body and do sadhana. Using the Vyana Vayu, which is still receding in the body, they will activate that body and they will ride that body in a certain way. Or they want to use their own energies to activate the dead body to do certain things. In the past, it was not uncommon. Another kind of people also look for the ashes. These are occult practitioners who misuse it. This is sorcery. It is because of all these reasons that when someone dear to you dies, you want to make sure this ash is scattered as wide as possible. You don't want your dead relatives to come searching for it or become victim of sorcery. So you take the ash and put it in the rivers, or you go to a mountain and where the wind is strong, you throw it into the air so that it spreads all over. In the past, this misuse was not uncommon, but today there are hardly a handful of people who are capable of it. But still, it is best to scatter the ashes so that the being does not get drawn towards it.